I've volunteered at the shelter for a long time, and I mostly did a lot of rescue coordination and temp testing dogs and working with rescues and trying to get dogs out and placed in homes. And it became it became very stressful and very emotionally draining, because each dog that you got out, there were 10 more that came in. So I was wanting a bigger solution to stop the problem of so many animals in the shelter. And another volunteer sent me an article in the LA Times and was like, we should do this. And it was the LA Times article that Sandy Banks wrote about Weise's program, Lori Weise of Downtown Dog Rescue, her program at South LA. And I was like, absolutely, we can do this here. So I set up a meeting with Lori and shadowed Amanda at South LA, and was just really inspired by what they were doing, not just helping animals, but also helping families and helping a community keep their pets. So it was a process. I had to get the okay from Brenda Barnett and the supervisors, and luckily I had a good relationship with the shelter and the staff here. So they welcomed us. Supervisors were great. We said all we need is a table and some chairs, and you don't have to, we won't take any other resources away from the shelter. So we started with no funding. It was myself and another volunteer named Lana, and we set up a table, because Lori Weise gave us the great advice of just start simple, only be there 2 days a week. And so we set up our table. We had pamphlets on free spay neuter options, low-cost veterinary care, and we were just there to help people if they had questions. So we weren't sure what to expect. It was a little frightening. I didn't know what would come our way. And the first person that came in was an elderly woman, Josephine. She's 79, and she came in with her 10-year-old chow, Lucy, who she'd had since Lucy was a puppy. And Josephine had lived in the same house for 36 years, and the landlord came around and told everybody they had to pay pet deposits and get renter's insurance. She's on a fixed income. She's 79. That was not a possibility at all in her world, $200. So when she came in, we saw her, and she was crying at the counter, and we said, what's going on? And she told us her story. Like I said, we didn't have any money, but she was basically turning into her best friend. So I drove home to get a checkbook and came back, and we wrote a check for the pet deposit for $200 so that she could keep her pet. And that was our first hour. And we were like, it just was a huge thing to be able to help, one, to keep this dog out of the shelter, but two, to help this woman and her pet stay together. It was the last thing she expected when she walked into the shelter. She said she thought it was going to be the worst day of her life, but it turned out to be the best day of her life. And we still support her. She gets free food delivery once a month by an organization called Noah Gives, who had read her story on our website. And so she gives Josephine free dog food once a month. And Josephine comes in here every once in a while and will bring us homemade tamales, and I'll call to check in. So that first experience was just what I think the whole program is about, which is doing a little something to help people in this community so that they can keep their pets. It means a lot to them. It fulfills their life. It keeps animals out of the shelter. And it creates a long-lasting relationship, which we found we have with a lot of the people that we've helped with their pets that come in, who've come thinking they're going to have to surrender their pets and get to leave with their pets. So that's kind of the spirit of the program. That's what kicked it off for us. I thought it was really symbolic, and that's the way it started. And that's kind of the spirit we run the program in.
And that was this past December 2013?
That was, we started the program November 2nd, 2013. So almost 6 months we've been running it at this point.
Okay, and you're keeping track of statistics on how many animals
we
you've
do,
kept
and
out?
South LA does get a lot more people coming in. They're just higher volume. We don't have quite the volume of people coming in, and we're only here we're here 3.5 days a week. But since December 2013, we've kept, now I haven't checked on the data for June, but we've kept over 200 cats and dogs out of the shelter system. And a lot of our program, which I was surprised about, has become helping people redeem their dogs and cats. So if their animal ends up here, usually a lot of times it's by no fault of their own. It's fireworks unexpectedly spooked their animal who jumped a 6-foot fence, or a neighbor, opened the fence and a pet got out. Their animal lands here, they come to get it right away most of the time, and are surprised that they have to pay a fee to get their animal back. So the shelter staff is great. They'll reach out to us to help them. Some people have no money. Well, we always ask, what can you put towards helping get your pet out? And some people really do not have any money. Some people can pay half. Some just need help with $25. But that's one of our favorite things to do, is to help families get their pets back. And it made me realize how many animals were here in the past just because a family couldn't afford the $159 to get their animal out. So we really love being able to provide that service. And it's not something I expected to be doing as much, but I'd say it's almost half of what we do is help people redeem their animals.
That's great. I mean, you're really helping this program create like a blueprint for it to spread across the nation, hopefully, which should soon be happening.
Hopefully, because it's a pretty simple template. I mean, you never know what's going to come to you every day. I mean, a lot of times it's improvising and we're scrambling and trying to put the pieces together of how we can help. Sometimes we can't help, and I feel like I've learned to let that go. At first, it wore really heavily on me, like, oh my God, this dog did have to come in, but you just have to realize we're not magic, and when we can help, we can, and sometimes we just can't, or sometimes a person has made that decision to turn their dog in. But yes, every shelter could do this. It's simple. Like I said, I started at the table with pamphlets 2 days a week. You don't need a lot of money to run this program. We do have a small grant, and then we get donations, but we really run it on not much money at all. So I feel like it's just the right sort of person to sit up there to talk to people and not be judgmental and help, and if they can't help, to not judge the person that has to turn their animal into the shelter, because that's why the shelters are here.
Well, as your program becomes more well known, then more money will come forward to help, because it's really kind of just changing the dynamic between rescue groups and rescuing animals, because you're preventing animals from being turned into the shelter. Or if you do find animals that are going to be turned in, you're trying to find them homes, which is... That's
what's been helpful, is being here, because we get to really get... You know, we ask the owner a lot of questions about the dog or cat, and if the dog or cat does end up here, yeah, at least we have all that information for the rescues that sometimes they won't have if they just turn it in. So we'll know, like, it's dog friendly, it's cat friendly. I pet it all over. It was amazing. I saw it with the kid. Like, we can give in-depth information about what the animal is like, and I feel like that's really helpful for rescues.
There have even been instances where an owner really doesn't want to surrender their dog but has absolutely no option, and we can't help them at that moment. And I mean, there have been families who've suddenly become homeless, and we actually help pay the surrender fee, which is $25, but we meet the family and the dog or the cat, and then we also help figure out if there's a way to place that animal. And that's happened a few times too, where the next day someone walks in. There was a beautiful little Bichon Frise, and Arturo came in, and he was couch surfing for a week and had no prospect. He just lost his job, and he was just completely beside himself and didn't want to ask for help. He didn't want to ask for help to surrender his dog, but ended up, basically saying to the shelter staff, I can't pay $25, and I don't know what to do. And we helped him out with that. And then the next day, a man came in whose Bichon had passed away the month before, and fell in love with this dog and took him home. And we let Arturo know, and he was ecstatic that his dog had found a home, and he knew that, and he felt a sense of closure, and he felt much better about the whole situation.
Yeah, that's it. It is a great service, and we do that. When we know they really are hurting about this pet, we get their number, or we always ask, do you want us to let you know? And it's really fulfilling to be able to call and be like, your dog's okay, or your cat's okay.
Yeah, and the stories are definitely heart-touching. I mean, the photos I see with the stories are some of the better stuff I see on Facebook.
There's not a day that goes by working at this program that there isn't a story that totally breaks your heart, and also just totally makes you go home feeling like, this is one of the best things that happened to me all week or all month or today.
Yeah, because there's a misconception or the anger about people that surrender their pets, and the term like, they dumped their senior dog at the shelter. And of course, sometimes there is a percentage of people that are just letting go of a dog semi-cavalierly, but we don't know. We don't know what there's going on for them inside. It might be really breaking them down inside. But for the most part, people have it's a hard process. It's a decision they had to come through over a lot of time and a lot of soul searching, and it's not as simple as, I don't care, I'm just going to dump my dog here,
I think one of the most valuable services that we're able to offer to the shelter staff, also, and to the animals in the community, is sometimes the staff are overburdened with work, and on a Sunday 100 people could walk through these doors, and the staff simply doesn't always have the time to spend for an hour with the family to figure out what's really going on, and is there some way that we could help address the situation. And they're very happy to refer families to us, and we do have that time. And we often get to the bottom of what the situation is, and we find a better solution, which is everybody is in a better situation.
And sometimes it's just simple, like they're confused. Everybody's over, worked here, and they are confused about spay neuter. I think they can't afford spay neuter, so they come over to us, and we're like, you can get it free. You can get a voucher here at the shelter, or there's the Amanda Foundation, or there's tons of options for free and low cost spay neuter. So sometimes it's just as simple as that, and it might not be the information they would have gotten on their own if they came in when the shelter was too busy.
It's another important part about the program is that being able, for some neighborhoods, being able to speak in different languages.
I mean, definitely in our neighborhood, I walked in on it was Christmas Eve, and I brought my family with me, like I do sometimes, to just visit the dogs in the shelter. And I found Carrie and Lana having a conversation with an elderly couple from El Salvador, and they were there to bring in their Shar-Pei and their Chow bonded pair. They were already 9 or 10 years old, these two dogs, and it was difficult for Carrie and Lana to have the conversation, and there were no shelter staff available to translate. And I was listening. I thought, well, can I help you communicate? And so I did, and I spent about half an hour and figured out that this family had lived in the same place for the whole duration of their two dogs' lives for 10 years, and a new landlord bought the property and told them, you have to leave. We have a no pet policy. And they were totally beside themselves, but they also had to move because the rent went up. And we helped converse and helped find placement for the two at a Shar-Pei shelter and rescue in Washington State. So we helped to transport them, and because they're a bonded pair, they took the two dogs together, which is unusual, but they did. The Shar-Pei needed the Chow to get around. He was couldn't see very well. And after that, Carrie said, "Are you looking for a job?" And I said, "Doing what?" And she said, "Well, what you just did." I said, "I would love to do that because I know the South LA program, and I've worked with Lori Weise and actually adopted a dog from her from the Downtown Dog Rescue, and had done some translating for that program for the training aspect. And now that's something that we're able to do here too, is training and translation. And for me, it's wonderful to be able just to do that in my community and know that people who often wouldn't ask for services are able to do that. And we sit down, and there's, really sweet old ladies who come in and just need to know where do they go for vaccines that don't cost a lot.
Yeah, we couldn't do it without the bilingual, without somebody speaking Spanish. It would be impossible. It was great for Lana and I to do it for 2 days, but she speaks poquito Spanish barely, and I speak none. And even days when Sarah's not here, it's crucial to have a Spanish speaker at the table that has that skill also to work well with people and to understand and make good judgments. So it's a real fine, it's a niche. It's a great niche that Sarah.
Yeah, this area of Los Angeles is about 65-70% Spanish speaking, and I'd say 10-15% Chinese speakers, Cantonese, and then a whole range of other languages. But it's definitely an area of need here.
Job security for you.
Yeah,
How can people find out about the program?
The program's called the North Central Intervention Program, very specific, but it's run by a nonprofit called Home Dog LA. We have a website, www.homedogla.com, and then we are on Facebook under North Central Shelter Intervention Program.